Welcome to Reddit's For Sleep, where calming stories help you unwind and drift into rest. Before we begin, like the video, subscribe for nightly stories, and comment where you are from and what time you are watching this. Now, get comfortable, and let's ease into tonight's stories. Now let's begin with story 1. I found out my daughter wasn't actually mine after 16 years of raising her. For 16 years, I've been dad. From her first steps to her first heartbreak, I was there. From the late night fevers to the whispered fears about high school, I was there. I taught her how to ride a bike. I stayed up late helping with her math homework, even when I had work at 5 a.m. the next day. I walked her to school, coached her soccer team, and cried when she called me her hero during a school project. I loved being her father. I still love being her father. But 2 weeks ago, my entire world collapsed. It started with something small, a school health screening where they flagged a rare blood type anomaly. The nurse told my wife that it was strange given our family history and it raised a few questions. I brushed it off. Kids inherit weird traits sometimes, right? But then my wife started acting weird. Withdrawn, nervous, she kept brushing off the topic. One night, I caught her crying in the bathroom. After some serious pushing, she finally broke down and told me to sit down. I remember every second of that moment. The way my stomach dropped, the way her lips trembled, the way she said, "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you 16 years ago." She confessed that during a rough patch early in our marriage, she had a one-night stand. She didn't know she was pregnant until weeks later, and by then, she had convinced herself I was the father. She said she didn't want to ruin everything. I sat there frozen, hoping it was some sick joke. I asked her to take a DNA test. I needed to know, even though part of me already did. A week later, the results came back. 0% match, not mine. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at the paper. 16 years. 16 damn years. And suddenly, I felt like a ghost in my own life. I felt like someone had pulled the floor out from under me, and I was falling through every moment I thought was real. But here's the part that's messing me up the most. I still love her. She's still my daughter. She still looks at me with those big, trusting eyes. She still calls me dad. She still hugs me like I'm her safe place. And I'm torn. Because I want to scream at my wife for lying to me for over a decade. I want to punch a hole in the wall, thinking about the other man, whoever he is, out there, completely unaware, or worse, aware, that he has a daughter. But when my daughter walks into the room, when she laughs at my dumb jokes, when she asks me if we can go get ice cream like we always do on Saturdays, none of that matters. I raised her. I taught her. I sacrificed for her. I held her when she was sick, cheered for her when she graduated middle school, and helped her navigate the mess of teenage life. So no, she may not be mine by blood, but she's mine in every other way that counts. I haven't told her yet. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe one day, when she's older, or maybe never. Maybe this is a burden I'll carry alone. But if you take anything from this post, take this. DNA doesn't make you a father. Love does. And no test will ever take that away from me. Story 2. One of my students was a bully, and his parents dealt with him in the best way possible. I'm a middle school teacher. I've seen all types of kids. Shy ones, loud ones, class clowns, overachievers, and unfortunately, bullies. There was one kid I'll never forget. Let's call him Brandon. 13 years old, tall for his age, confident too, confident. He had that smirk bullies always seem to have, like he was in on some joke the rest of the class didn't get. The kind of kid who could insult you to your face and somehow make it sound like a compliment. Brandon had a habit of picking on the quiet ones. He made snide remarks, threw paper balls, mock stutters. Once, he even stole a shy student's water bottle, filled it with hand soap from the bathroom, and pretended it was a magic potion. The poor kid drank it and threw up right there in class. I reported every incident, followed protocol, called home, wrote referrals, but it didn't seem to matter. Most of the time, these calls ended with frustrated but passive parents who either denied it or said, "Boys will be boys." Until one day, everything changed. After yet another bullying report involving Brandon cornering a student in the locker room, I called his parents again, expecting the same indifference. But this time, they asked to meet in person. They showed up the next morning, calm but serious. The mother had a notepad. The father didn't say much, just stared at Brandon like he was seeing him for the first time. I explained everything again. Every incident, every child Brandon had made cry, every parent who had emailed me asking for help. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then Brandon's mom said, "Thank you. We didn't raise him to be like this, but clearly something went wrong, and we're going to fix it." I didn't think much of it. I've heard that before, but they weren't bluffing. The next day, Brandon came to class. Different, quieter, not scared, more like humbled. He wasn't laughing with his usual group. He didn't interrupt me. He actually asked questions. At lunch, I saw him sitting alone. Later, I found out why. His parents had taken action in a way I've never seen before. 1. They pulled him out of sports for the season, not as punishment, but to reset his values. 2. They made him volunteer every weekend at a local shelter that worked with underprivileged kids and those with disabilities, the kind of kids he used to mock. 3. They made him personally write apology letters to every student he bullied. Not generic ones. Real, uncomfortable, specific apologies. 4. They sent an email to every parent of those students, signed by both of them, explaining what Brandon did and how they were addressing it. No excuses. 5. And, most surprisingly, they brought Brandon to therapy, not just to help him behave, but to understand why he felt the need to hurt others. Over the next few months, I watched Brandon change. He started defending the kids he used to pick on. When someone else made a joke about another student, Brandon would shut it down. He started helping the shy kid he once pranked with homework. One time, I caught him giving the kid his lunch because he'd forgotten his at home. By the end of the year, Brandon was still himself, still confident, still funny, but the cruelty was gone, replaced by awareness, humility, respect. We had a parent-teacher night toward the end of the year. Brandon's parents came in. His mom pulled me aside and said, "We lost track of who he was becoming. Thank you for not giving up on him. And thank you for being honest with us, even when we didn't want to hear it." And Brandon, he looked me in the eye for the first time and said, "Sorry for making your job harder." That hit me harder than any standardized test ever could. So, yeah. Not all stories about bullies end in disaster. Sometimes, when the adults step up, when they stop making excuses and start parenting, change happens. I still think about Brandon, not because he was a bully, but because he showed me people can change if they're held accountable with love, not just punishment. Story 3. My wife actually married me to try and get half of all my assets. But I thought 2 steps ahead. This is a story I never thought I'd tell. Partly because it sounds like something straight out of a movie, and partly because it still makes my blood boil thinking about it. A few years ago, I was in my early 30s, single, financially stable, owned 2 properties, a decent investment portfolio, in a growing business that had just started turning serious profits. Life was good. Then she came along. Let's call her Rachel. Beautiful, charismatic, sharp. We met through mutual friends, and from the beginning it felt like a fairy tale. She said all the right things, made me laugh, and seemed genuinely impressed with how I'd built my life from the ground up. Within a year, we were engaged. Everyone said we were perfect together. But something in me, call it instinct, or maybe the years of watching friends get blindsided by love, just hesitated. She never asked too many details about my finances directly, but I noticed she always asked if my business was protected. She made weird jokes about how she deserved luxury, or would say things like, "If we ever divorced, you'd be too rich to notice, half was gone." Always with a laugh. But something about it just didn't sit right. So I decided to think 2 steps ahead. Before we tied the knot, I quietly moved most of my assets, the business shares, the rental properties, my stocks into a trust under my name, with an ironclad prenup drafted by the best lawyer I could find. Everything was protected. Watertight. The prenup even had a clause that voided any claims if infidelity or malicious intent was discovered. She signed it without much fuss, which honestly made me even more suspicious. Fast forward a year into the marriage. At first everything was fine, but slowly she got colder, less interested in our relationship, more obsessed with appearances. She started spending like crazy, even though she had her own job. Designer clothes, spa weekends, expensive gifts for us that I never saw. Then one day, I found messages on her iPad. She'd forgotten to log out of her iMessages, and curiosity got the better of me. She'd been talking to a divorce attorney behind my back, not just talking planning. She was asking about timelines, loopholes in prenups, and even went as far as asking, "When's the best time to file so I can walk away with the most?" I sat there staring at the screen for what felt like an eternity. She was plotting, calculated, cold. She married me for money, and she was getting ready to collect. So I played dumb. I waited. I documented everything, screenshots, emails, even installed a home security system with audio, fully legal in my state, just to catch any further evidence of intent. I even had a private investigator confirm she was already seeing someone else. Then one morning, I served her divorce papers at breakfast with my lawyer sitting across the table. She was stunned, and then I hit her with the facts. All my assets, protected. My business, untouchable. Her infidelity, documented. Her intent to manipulate the divorce, on record. The prenup, ironclad, and now completely enforceable with penalty clauses. She walked away with nothing. Not because I'm heartless, but because she tried to con me, and I simply didn't let her win. Funny enough, the only thing she genuinely seemed upset about was that she lost. Let this be a warning to anyone who builds something from scratch. Protect your empire. Love is beautiful, but love without boundaries is a blueprint for disaster. And sometimes the person sleeping next to you has a knife under the pillow, and they're just waiting for the right moment to strike. But if you play 2 steps ahead, they never even get the chance. Story 4. I've been addicted to gambling. Almost my whole life. My wife threatened to leave me if I didn't stop. So I tried one last time on a lottery ticket and won $2.10 million. I've never told anyone the full story. Not my parents, not my friends, not even my therapist. But here, it is raw, unfiltered, and still hard for me to believe. I've been addicted to gambling for as long as I can remember. It started small little poker games with friends in high school, then online blackjack, then sports betting, then the lottery, then casinos. The thrill was like a drug, and every time I won, I felt invincible. But every time I lost, which was most of the time, I just told myself, One more try would fix it all. It didn't. Over the years, I drained savings accounts, took out loans, sold things we didn't need and some things we did, lied to my wife more times than I can count. I promised I'd stop, over and over. But I never did. Until one night, she snapped. She came home from work, sat down at the kitchen table with a stack of papers, bank statements, credit card bills, overdue notices I thought I'd hidden well, and she just stared at me. Then she said, "It's me or the gambling. I can't do this anymore." She was shaking, tears in her eyes. The woman who had stood by me through everything was done. That night was the lowest I'd ever been. I slept on the couch, didn't eat, just sat there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd become this person. The next morning, I told her I'd quit. For real, no more apps, no more casinos. No more scratching off tickets at gas stations. I deleted everything. Got into a support group, blocked myself from betting websites. But as insane as this sounds, something in me itched. That final, desperate voice in the back of my mind whispered, "Just one last try." I was picking up groceries that evening when I saw the lottery display by the cashier. The jackpot was massive, $2.1 million. My hands were literally shaking. I had one crumpled $10 bill in my wallet. I don't know what came over me. Call it addiction, call it stupidity, or maybe just fate. I bought the ticket. I told myself I wouldn't even scratch it until my wife was asleep. I stared at it for hours, and then, finally, I scratched. Row by row, number by number. And I just sat there in silence. Mouth open, heart racing. I'd won. All of it. The full $2.1 million. I didn't believe it at first. I checked it 100 times, scanned it, took it to the lottery office. They confirmed it. Valid, real, life-changing. But here's the thing. When I told my wife, I expected her to scream, cry, jump up and down. She didn't. She just looked at me and said, "You promised you were done. And you lied. Again." That hit harder than anything. I offered to give her the entire amount, said I'd sign whatever paper she needed, said I'd never touch a casino or lottery ticket again for the rest of my life. But she didn't care about the money. She cared about me, about the lies, about the pain. So I made a decision. I put the winnings into a trust, where I can't touch it without her approval. We got into therapy, both individual and as a couple. I'm still in recovery, still fighting that voice in my head that says, "Just once." But now I'm fighting with someone beside me, not against her. And the wildest part, the money didn't fix everything, but it gave me the chance to finally start. Story 5. I've always thought my parents were dead, but I just found them in Hawaii. They were running away from their responsibilities. For most of my life, I believed my parents were dead. I was told they died in a car accident when I was 2. No real details, just a vague story repeated to me by relatives, foster parents, social workers, everyone. I grew up in and out of homes, bounced between families, never really having a place to call mine. It messed with me. I used to look at photos of strangers and wonder if they were somehow related to me. I built up this fantasy that maybe my parents had been amazing, people, kind, loving, just taken too soon. That fantasy just shattered. Last week, I found out they're alive. Not only alive, but living it up in Hawaii. Here's how it happened. I'd been working on building my ancestry tree using one of those DNA test kits. Just curiosity at first, but one day I got a close match. A woman, around my mom's age. I messaged her thinking maybe she was an aunt or cousin. She replied, "This might sound crazy, but I think I'm your mother." My blood ran cold. I thought it was a scam at first, but after weeks of back and forth messages, phone calls, and comparing details, The truth unraveled. My parents faked their deaths. They were in their early 20s when they had me, struggling, poor. My mom said they were overwhelmed, too young, and didn't want to be tied down. My dad was deep in debt and had some legal issues, the kind that make people disappear. So, instead of facing life, they left me, dropped me off with a relative and disappeared. Faked a story, told the family to say they died in a crash, then vanished. Started over, changed their names, moved to Maui. They've been living there for over 20 years, running a surf rental business, drinking cocktails, raising 2 more kids. I didn't know whether to scream or cry. When I flew out to confront them, they acted like I was a ghost. My mom cried. My dad just stood there in silence. I asked them why. Why didn't they at least check up on me? Why didn't they try to contact me once I turned 18? Why raise other kids, but not me? My mom said, "We didn't think you'd ever find us. We thought you were better off." Better off. Better off bouncing through broken homes. Better off thinking I was an orphan. Better off grieving 2 people who were actually sipping Mai Tais under palm trees. They offered me a place to stay. Tried to hug me, tried to explain. I left. I'm still processing all of this. Still deciding what to do. Part of me wants to walk away forever. Another part of me wants to scream it from the rooftops. Not for revenge, just to not be silent about it anymore. They didn't die. They ran. From life. From parenting. From me. And now, they want to reconnect. I honestly don't know if I ever will. Story 6. Our bullied colleague owns almost 30% of the company we work for, and everyone is panicking. Let me tell you how karma came back, swinging harder than we ever expected. There's this guy at work, let's call him Alan. Quiet, awkward, always keeps to himself, socially. Not the smoothest. He's one of those people who wears the same 3 button-up shirts, brings tuna sandwiches for lunch every day, and never talks unless spoken to. Naturally, in an office full of overly sarcastic, gossipy 20-somethings, he became an easy target. People laughed behind his back, made group chats dedicated to mocking his emails, swapped stories about how weird he was. I'm ashamed to admit, I didn't speak up much when it happened. No one did. We all just assumed Alan was harmless, boring, and totally average. Until last week. It started with an all-hands meeting where the company announced it was being acquired by a larger tech firm. That alone had everyone on edge. But then, a bombshell dropped. During a casual conversation over drinks that night, our CFO, a little drunk, let something slip. You guys know Alan's one of the biggest minority shareholders, right? Dude owns like 28% of the company. Everyone laughed. Until they realized he wasn't joking. We were stunned. Alan? Our Alan, the one people laughed at for bringing oatmeal in a Ziploc bag, the same guy who still uses an iPhone 7 with a cracked screen? Yep, that Alan. Turns out, Alan's father was one of the original co-founders of the company back when it was just 2 guys and an idea in a garage. When the company started gaining traction, his father gave Alan a large chunk of equity as a trust when he turned 18. He never sold it, never bragged, just quietly came to work every day like everyone else. But here's where it gets wild. With the acquisition, Alan's shares are worth millions, like retirement level money. And he's not just a silent shareholder, apparently. His shares come with voting power. Now, everyone who mocked him, ignored him, laughed at his robot voice in meetings, is scrambling. People have started saying hi to him in the halls, suddenly inviting him to lunch, asking him his thoughts in meetings. It's like watching hyenas try to cozy up to a lion that they didn't know had teeth. Last Friday, he came into the office in a clean suit. Not expensive, not flashy, but ironed, neat, confident. Walked straight into a meeting with the board, Rumor is he's being offered a spot on the executive team. And the irony? The same coworkers who used to call him creepy calculator are now updating their LinkedIns and wondering if he has a say in who gets laid off after the merger. I don't know how Alan feels about all this. He's still quiet, still eats alone. But I did notice something yesterday for the first time ever. He smiled when he walked past our desks. I think he knows. And honestly, good for him. Story 7. I dated a woman for 6 years, only to find out it was a man the day before our wedding night. I don't even know how to begin telling this story, because even now, months later, it still feels like a nightmare I can't wake up from. For 6 years, I dated the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. Her name was Ashley. From the moment we met in college, it felt like magic. She was everything I ever wanted. Funny, smart, kind, beautiful, in a way that made my heart race every time she smiled. We went through everything together. Late night talks about our dreams, quiet mornings with coffee, vacations where we held hands on beaches, and small fights that never lasted long because we cared too much to stay mad. I thought we were building something real, something unbreakable. After 5 years, Ashley and I moved in together into a little apartment downtown. We got a dog, a golden retriever we named Max, and even started planning our wedding. I was so happy I could see the rest of my life with her. I imagined a house with a white picket fence, maybe kids running around, Sunday brunches, growing old together. But then came the day before our wedding night, the day that would have been one of the happiest of my life. Ashley asked me if we could have a serious talk, just the two of us. My heart skipped a beat, but I told myself it was probably just nerves or last-minute doubts. I was wrong. She sat me down and looked at me with eyes full of tears, trembling as she spoke words I never thought I'd hear from her mouth. There's something I've been hiding, something I should have told you a long time ago. He told me his real name was Andrew, that Ashley was the name he used to live socially, but he was actually a man who had been struggling with his identity for years. He said he was afraid to tell me because he loved me and didn't want to lose me, that he wanted to be honest, but didn't know how. For 6 years, I thought I knew everything about the woman I loved, but now everything felt like a lie. Every moment, every kiss, every promise suddenly felt like it had a shadow over it. The person I'd trusted, planned a life with, was someone I didn't even know. I felt so betrayed, my mind raced. How could he keep this from me? Why wait until the day before we were supposed to become husband and wife? Was any of it real? Did he love me, or was it all just fear and confusion? But amid the anger and heartbreak, there was also confusion. I realized I didn't know how to process the fact that my partner was someone I never expected. I loved her, or him, but who was the person beneath the mask? Was my love for Ashley love for Andrew too? Or was it just the version of her I thought I knew? We didn't go through with the wedding. We ended it the next day. It was painful and messy, but somehow it felt like the only option. Since then, I've been trying to pick up the pieces of my life. Sometimes I question myself. How did I miss all the signs? Was I just oblivious? Or was he so good at hiding it that even I couldn't see? I don't hate Andrew. I don't. I feel for him, too. Because hiding who you really are, especially from the person you love most, is its own kind of pain. But I'm still healing. Still figuring out who I am after this. Still learning how to trust. How to love again without fear. And maybe the hardest part is realizing that love doesn't always come packaged in the way you expect. Sometimes it comes with secrets, with pain, and with lessons you never asked for. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I do know this. After everything, I still believe in love. I just hope next time it's honest. Story 8. I recently found out. My grandpa was living almost 4 double lives, multiple wives and kids. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. It's the kind of family secret that feels like it belongs in a soap opera, but no, this is real life. My grandpa, the man I grew up idolizing, the quiet, wise, traditional patriarch of our family, was living a life I never could have imagined. Not just one secret life, but almost 4. Multiple wives, multiple kids, and none of us had any clue. I always thought I knew him well. The stories he told us about his youth, his humble beginnings, how he worked hard to raise his family, all seemed so genuine. Grandpa was the kind of man who went to every birthday, every school event, every holiday dinner, the glue that held our family together. But recently, I was going through some old documents after he passed away, and what I found shattered everything. There were letters, official papers, and even photos hidden away from women I'd never heard of. Women he had apparently married or had kids with, while still living with my grandma. It was mind-blowing. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake, maybe distant relatives or something else, but as I dug deeper, it became clear. My grandpa was living multiple lives. At once, sometimes in the same town, sometimes in different cities. 4 separate families, 4 sets of children, all unaware of each other. Imagine the shock my cousins and I, the people I grew up with, all only half of the picture. There are other kids out there who don't even know they have a grandfather. Or maybe they do, but not the same man we thought he was. I confronted my grandma. She knew. Somehow, she had known for years but stayed silent. The reasons she gave me were heartbreaking shame, fear, the desire to keep the family together, protect us kids from a truth she said would break us. Now the family is in chaos. Some relatives want answers. Some want to bury the past. I feel like I'm living in 2 worlds, the family I grew up with, and this hidden world my grandpa kept secret until his death. It's hard to process. It's hard to forgive. And it's hard to understand how one person could live so many lives and keep us all in the dark. I don't know what's going to happen next, but one thing's for sure. My grandpa was far more complicated than any of us ever imagined. Story 9. My daughter's German Shepherd bit me while she was at school. So I put it in a safe place. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. My daughter has a beautiful German Shepherd, big, strong, and usually well-behaved. She's been training him since he was a pup, and honestly, I've always admired how obedient and loyal the dog was. But one day, while my daughter was at school, the dog snapped at me out of nowhere. No warning, no growl, just a sudden bite. It wasn't a minor nip, it was enough to break skin and leave me bleeding. I was shocked and angry. Why would he do that? I knew it wasn't normal behavior. I tried to calm him down, but the tension was thick. I couldn't risk it happening again, especially when my daughter wasn't home. So I decided to put him in a safe place, a place where he wouldn't hurt anyone, and honestly where I could control what happened next. I won't go into all the grisly details, but let's just say the dog didn't survive. It was a harsh decision, but one I felt forced to make for the safety of my family. The house felt quieter after, but the guilt lingered. When my daughter came home and found out, she was devastated. She didn't understand why her loyal companion was gone, and I struggled to explain it without breaking her heart. I keep wondering if there was another way, if I could have handled it differently, but in that moment I did what I thought was necessary. Sometimes love means making impossible choices. Story 10. I recently found out my son has almost 5 kids with different girls, and he's only 16. I don't even know how to begin this. I'm still in shock. My son, my 16-year-old son, has managed to do something I never thought possible in this day and age, especially under my roof while going to school, pretending to live a normal teenage life. He has fathered nearly 5 children. Yes, you read that right. 5 kids. With 5 different girls. It started with a phone call about 3 months ago. A girl I'd never met called me, asking if I was my son's name, his parent. She said she was pregnant and that he was the father. I nearly dropped the phone. I immediately confronted him, and after the usual storm of denial, anger, and excuses, he broke down and admitted it. But that was just the beginning. What followed was a slow-motion nightmare. Over the next few weeks, 4 more girls either showed up at our house or contacted us through social media or their parents, each with the same story, pregnant or already with a baby, and my son was the father. One of them even had twins. At first, I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe someone was setting him up. Maybe it was exaggerated or mistaken identity. But after paternity tests, messages, photos, and undeniable proof, it was all true. My son, the boy who still leaves dirty dishes in his room and forgets to charge his phone, is now responsible for 5 lives. What hit me the hardest is how calmly he took it. Not proud, not ashamed, just numb. Like he had accepted his fate at 16. It scared me. It made me wonder where I went wrong. We've talked about protection, about responsibility, about respect. But clearly, the message didn't land. Now, our lives are upside down. I'm meeting with lawyers, talking to social workers, trying to navigate the chaos. The mothers of the children are from different neighborhoods. Some are still in school themselves. The families are angry, confused, and just as overwhelmed as I am. I want to support him, but I also want him to understand the weight of what he's done. This isn't just drama. These are real human lives now caught in the middle. If you're a parent reading this, talk to your kids. Not just the once-a-year birds and bees talk, but real, consistent, uncomfortable conversations. Because you never think it'll be your kid until it is. If you have enjoyed the 10 Reddit stories, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and comment down where you are watching from. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of rain.